You know that feeling, the one where you fought the good fight, won the battle, but in the end, you're not sure if you're still the same person who started the journey. That's where you are right now. You've crossed a threshold most people fear, and many never dare to approach. You turned back toward your own darkness. You walked into the very thing you spent years running from, your shadow, and you survived. But here's the catch. The real challenge isn't in facing your demons. It's in learning to live once you've met them. It's about figuring out who you are when the old you no longer fits, when your previous identity no longer serves you. The work isn't just about recognition, it's about transformation. You face the parts of yourself you tried to deny, the anger you buried beneath your need to please others, the grief you ignored while being overproductive, the parts you were taught to hide, and the truths you were too afraid to confront. You saw your reflection, both beautiful and ugly, dark and light. And the amazing thing, it didn't destroy you. But now you stand in the aftermath. The storm has passed. The mirror has shown you everything. The rage, the shame, the lost dreams, and the hidden truths. And you're left with a haunting question. What now? You're not alone in this question. Everyone who has truly faced their shadow has had to ask it. You've learned that facing your darkness leads to freedom, but nobody prepared you for the feeling of that freedom. It feels different. It feels strange. It's not the release you expected. You're no longer performing the exhausting dance of being the version of yourself everyone else needed you to be. That's progress. But what nobody warned you about was how uncomfortable true freedom feels, how disorienting it is to break free from your old roles, your old armor, and your old expectations. The freedom that follows shadow work can often feel like isolation. Authenticity can sometimes feel like alienation. When you strip away the masks, the illusion of who you were, there is a void, a space where you once existed, but now you're unsure who you are in the absence of that identity. Suddenly, the world feels different. It's quieter. You're no longer running from parts of yourself that made others uncomfortable. But the quiet, it's unsettling. No one warned you that the absence of noise would feel so lonely. You might find yourself waking up in a house you've lived in for years, only to realize that every room has shifted. The furniture is the same, but it's been rearranged, and nothing feels familiar anymore. The friends you thought understood you now feel distant. The conversations that once sparked your interest now feel shallow. Those tasks that once defined your purpose now seem like distractions. Your job, your relationships, your interactions all feel fragile, not because they are broken, but because the surface level connection no longer satisfies. You've tasted what it means to be truly seen, to connect on a deeper level. Now, small talk feels like sandpaper against your soul. The good news, you're not in the pain you once were. The sharp edges of unprocessed trauma have softened. That relentless anxiety about being too much or not enough has quieted. You've made it through. But the unsettling reality is you're not fully alive yet either. You're in the in-between space. You're stuck between who you were and who you're becoming, between the old world that no longer fits and a new world you can't quite see yet, between the comfort of unconsciousness and the uncertain territory of awareness. It's in this liminal space that most people get lost. They fall back into old patterns, into old identities, because there's no map for this space. You weren't taught how to live after the mask falls off. This moment of uncertainty, this quiet, is where most people panic. They mistake the silence for stagnation. They mistake the stillness for emptiness and rush back to the noise, to the distractions, to the personas that once protected them from their truth. But none of that will ever bring you back to yourself. Healing, true healing, doesn't look like instant clarity. It doesn't look like quick fixes or breakthroughs. Healing is the slow unraveling of everything you thought you knew about yourself, the disintegration of the mask you wore, and the discovery of who you really are. This process isn't easy, and it's not linear. You will feel like you're moving backwards at times, even after you've come so far. But remember, every step, every tear, every quiet moment of discomfort is part of the deeper process of reclaiming yourself. Once you face your shadow, the real work begins. It's not enough to simply meet the parts of you that you've buried. You've stepped into the dark and lived to tell the tale, but now you have to learn how to move forward. You're left standing in the aftermath, asking, what now? It's a question that feels almost like an echo in the empty spaces where you used to live your life. The storm has passed, but the silence feels like a new storm. You're no longer performing for the approval of others, no longer pretending to be someone you're not. You've been set free, but no one told you how isolating freedom can be. It's one thing to break free from the false self, to shed the layers of who you thought you were. It's another thing entirely to learn who you are without them. When you've been conditioned to be something for everyone, you lose the sense of what it means to just be yourself. The shift is uncomfortable. Imagine waking up in a room that used to feel like home, only to realize everything has shifted. The furniture hasn't changed, but its position feels alien. The people around you seem distant, like you're speaking a different language. You find yourself questioning not just your actions, but your very existence in this new reality. You've tasted depth, and now surface-level interactions feel hollow. You've experienced what it's like to be truly seen, and suddenly, small talk feels abrasive. You're not in pain, but you're not fully alive either. You're stuck between who you were and who you are becoming. This space between worlds, the in-between place, is where most people get lost again, because we were never taught how to exist without the masks. We were never shown the process of becoming after the awakening. We were told about the breakthroughs, the cathartic moments of clarity, but nobody mentioned the breakdown that follows, the dismantling of everything you thought you knew about yourself. What comes next? That's the real question.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Your feedback means a lot, and I look forward to hearing your thoughts.
The work isn't finished when you meet your shadow. It's just begun. Because facing your truth is one thing, but living in it, sitting with it, feels foreign. It's like learning to walk again after years of running. Every step feels deliberate, slow, and conscious. You're recalibrating, and it's unsettling. Healing isn't linear. It's messy, often counterintuitive, and sometimes painful. You might find yourself grieving not just the past, but also the versions of yourself you can never return to. That's the grief of transformation. The mourning of the person you used to be, the one who could numb, who could perform, who could survive. That version of you is gone, and in its place stands a version that feels raw, tender, and exposed. It's in this vulnerable state that you start noticing things differently. Your body reacts in ways it never has before. You cry over the most unexpected things. A song, a simple kindness, the way the light hits your window in the afternoon. It's not sadness. It's your heart finally softening enough to feel everything it couldn't before. Your nervous system is recalibrating too. Your mind, once trained to anticipate danger, struggles to rest in peace. The things that used to be important, being busy, achieving, performing, now feel like distractions. You no longer crave the things that once numbed you. The emotional void you once filled with work, with distractions, with approval seeking, is now a quiet space for new experiences, new flavors, new sensations. This recalibration is disorienting. It's like walking through molasses. The world speeds up around you, and you feel like you're moving in slow motion. But don't mistake this for stagnation. This is transformation happening beneath the surface. You are in the cocoon phase, the dark, quiet period before the butterfly emerges. You're not lost. You're being born. This phase is sacred, even though it's uncomfortable. It's where the real work happens, not in the external changes, but in the internal shifts. The work of shedding the old layers of identity that no longer serve you. The work of becoming who you've always been, without the conditioning, without the masks. And here's the thing that nobody tells you. Once you've done the shadow work, you start seeing things differently. You see the performance in others. You hear the hollow laughter. You notice the masks people wear to keep their discomfort at bay. And you begin to realize how exhausting it must be to hold up that facade day after day. You're no longer playing the game. You're not pretending to be someone you're not. And that, my friend, is when you truly begin to live. After you've faced your shadow, a new kind of disorientation sets in. You've walked through the fire, and yet you can't shake the feeling that something is still missing. The pain that once defined you has softened, but so has the clarity that comes with it. You've touched your wounds, accepted them, and integrated the parts of yourself you once thought were broken. But now you stand at the edge of a new abyss, the silence that follows. And it's uncomfortable. It's not the usual noise of your inner critic or the constant striving to prove your worth. It's something else. It's a quiet that feels unfamiliar, like stepping into a room that used to be full of life, only to find it barren, the walls echoing with the emptiness you've always tried to avoid. But this quiet isn't stagnation. It's the space where real transformation happens. The truth is, you don't know who you are without the armor you've spent years wearing, the persona that you constructed to survive. The mask that made you acceptable to others isn't just gone, it's been dissolved, and now you're left with raw vulnerability. The old ways of coping don't work anymore. The old self-affirmations, the need for external validation, the performance. You realize that none of it feels real anymore. You may find yourself questioning everything that once seemed important. The job you worked so hard to achieve, it no longer holds the same significance. The relationships that once filled you with a sense of purpose, now they seem shallow, distant. Even the passions you once thought defined you begin to fade into the background. What used to feel like life now feels like an act. And yet, this is exactly where you need to be. You're not lost. You're being remade. This in-between space, this liminal phase, is where you begin to recalibrate. It's the place where you stop chasing approval, stop running from discomfort, and start listening to your own heartbeat. It's not about rushing to fill the void. It's about embracing it, sitting with it, and learning to breathe in it. This phase of stillness is sacred. It's the cocoon before the butterfly emerges, but the transformation is happening beneath the surface, in the quiet moments. It's not about achieving more or doing more. It's about becoming. The work that lies ahead is not about proving anything to anyone. It's about proving to yourself that you are worthy of peace, of love, of acceptance, just as you are, without the need for performance. But this doesn't mean you'll be immune to discomfort. The old patterns will try to return. Your ego, still clinging to the remnants of old survival strategies, will whisper that you need to hustle harder, perform better, be more. And at times, you'll be tempted to listen. The world will encourage you to shrink, to play small, to become the version of yourself that everyone finds acceptable. But the truth is, you can't unlearn what you've learned about yourself. You've tasted the freedom that comes with authenticity. You've stepped outside the matrix of societal expectations, and now the world feels strange. The conversations that used to keep you engaged now feel like noise. The people who once validated you now seem disconnected from your truth. And it's not that you're better than them, it's that you've outgrown the version of yourself that needed to fit in. The mask has fallen, and now all you can do is walk forward, unsure of what's to come. It's in this uncertainty that the real work begins. Not the kind of work that looks like striving or achieving, not the kind of work that brings applause or accolades, but the kind of work that builds you from the inside out. It's the work of standing in your truth, even when it feels like you're standing alone. It's the work of reclaiming the parts of yourself you once feared. It's the work of finally, fully embracing your humanity, your contradictions, your wounds, your desires, and your gifts. This work is not about perfection. It's not about eliminating all your flaws and becoming a polished version of yourself. It's about becoming whole. It's about accepting that you don't need to be fixed because you were never broken. You simply needed to remember who you were beneath the layers of conditioning and survival mechanisms. And the most profound part of this journey is learning that authenticity doesn't always feel comfortable. It feels raw. It feels vulnerable. It feels like stepping into a space you've never occupied before, where the old stories no longer make sense and you're left without a map. But that discomfort, that's where your power lies. Because the more you embrace your truth, the more you allow others to do the same. Your authenticity becomes a mirror for others to see themselves. As you move through this phase, you'll start to notice that the world begins to respond differently to you. People will still project their expectations onto you, but you'll no longer feel the need to conform. You'll stop shrinking yourself to make others comfortable. You'll stop apologizing for your existence. And in doing so, you'll begin to attract people who see you, not the version of you they want, but the real you. The you who is messy, vulnerable, human. This is what happens when you stop performing. You stop playing the game. You stop trying to fit into boxes. You become a free spirit, unshackled by external validation. And it's only when you step into that freedom that you can finally begin to live. At last, you stand on the other side of your shadow work, and something profound has happened. You faced your demons, danced with your darkest parts, and emerged not unscathed, but transformed. The battle, as it were, has ended, but the work, the real work, is just beginning. You've spent so long trying to prove your worth to the world, so long chasing validation, love, and approval, as if they were the only things that could make you complete. But now, in the quiet aftermath of facing your shadow, you realize that none of that mattered. Not really. You were never broken. You just spent a lifetime hiding the parts of yourself you thought would make you unworthy of love. And now you're standing in the stillness. There is no applause, no fanfare, no one watching you to see how well you perform. The external markers of success, the trophies of your old self, they don't seem to matter anymore. What once filled you with pride now feels irrelevant, a distraction from the deeper work of becoming who you truly are. But this is where the real challenge begins, because now that you face the shadow, now that the mask has fallen away, you're left with a question. Who are you when you no longer play the roles that once defined you? The world feels unfamiliar. Your job, once a source of validation, now feels hollow. Relationships that once brought comfort now feel shallow. You've tasted depth, true, raw, unfiltered connection. And now, small talk feels like sandpaper against your soul. The conversations you used to engage in, the people you used to be, now seem like a distant memory. You realize that you've outgrown the version of yourself that was willing to shrink to fit in. But this disorienting shift is not regression. It's transformation in its rawest, most vulnerable state. And you're being reborn. What you're experiencing is the cocoon phase, the dark, quiet period that the butterfly metaphor rarely speaks of. The place where everything that matters is happening beneath the surface, but no one else can see it. This phase doesn't look glamorous. It doesn't come with accolades or recognition. It feels at times like stagnation, but it's not. It's a gestation. You're not lost. You're being recalibrated, and recalibration feels slow. It feels uncomfortable. It feels strange, like learning to walk again after years of running. The world moves fast, and yet you feel like you're wading through molasses. You're awake in a world that's still asleep, and you start to see the masks that others wear. You notice the performance, the small talk, the hustle for approval, and the dissonance between who you are becoming and who everyone else is still pretending to be becomes unbearable. But the discomfort of authenticity isn't failure, it's liberation. It's in this discomfort that you find the space for your own truth. You no longer need to perform to feel safe. You no longer need to seek validation outside of yourself. You can say no without feeling guilty. You can speak your truth without apology. You can show up as your authentic self, even when it's uncomfortable, because you've tasted the peace that comes from self-acceptance. And yet, there's an undertow of temptation to go back to sleep, to shrink, to become someone the world can digest easily. The world will invite you to perform again. It would tempt you to make yourself smaller, quieter, more palatable. Your ego, still reeling from the exposure, will whisper in your ear. You were happier when you didn't know so much. You were safer when you didn't feel so deeply. The temptation to go back to the performance is strong because authenticity at times feels alienating. It feels isolating. But this is the price of freedom. This is the cost of owning your truth in a world that rewards conformity. And the real test comes when you realize that staying true to yourself means losing the comfort of approval. It means standing alone at times. It means being misunderstood. But you know something now. You know that authenticity, no matter how uncomfortable, is worth it. Because in that authenticity, you find your power. You find your peace. And most importantly, you find your people. Not the ones who needed you to perform, but the ones who see you for exactly who you are. This is the paradox of shadow work. You integrate your darkness, you confront your fears, and you emerge stronger. But then you must face the truth that living in the light of your truth feels lonely. It feels isolating, but it's not emptiness, it's presence. You are becoming the person you were always meant to be. You are finding your true rhythm, your true essence. And the journey, though uncomfortable, is the most profound thing you will ever do. Healing doesn't look like perfection, it looks like wholeness. And wholeness isn't about fixing your flaws, it's about embracing them. It's about holding space for your complexity, your contradictions, your beauty, and your darkness. And the real reward comes when you stop searching for the approval of others and start giving yourself permission to live authentically.